Yeah, I was thinking let's talk about the exotic stuff first, and then we'll talk about traveling.
The exciting things first. What are you talking about? Do you mean my erotic
Um,
content?
yeah, your erotic content.
Yeah, so like 3 years ago, I fell in love with photography. So I started doing some photos, and I have been disconnected from my sensuality as a woman from a long time because of my religious past. I was born in an Adventist home, so it was like something wrong. It was, yeah, it was wrong for me to be like connected with this sensual part of this feminine part of myself. So friend of mine told me, "Oh, you should do erotic content. You know, you have the curves, you have the attitude." And I was like, "No, I cannot do that. That's too hard. That's not for me." But she insisted. She was like, "You have to do it. You need to do it. You're gonna earn money. You're gonna make money." And after thinking a lot about it, I said, why not, right? I love doing new things. So I was like, what the hell? Let's do it. So I started creating this content, playing like with this sensuality side of me. And it was so much fun. And I didn't realize that to create this content, you have to explore also your creativity. It's not just showing your butt, showing your boobs. I wanted to do something else, like something different. So I started to create like different sets. I started to learn about how to pose. I started to create photo shoots with an intention. And then, as I love traveling, I mixed this photo shooting with landscapes. So I was like naked in the wild, and I was like, feeling myself. And was about a journey, an inside journey to be in touch with my sensuality and my sexuality too. And it was so much fun because through this process, earning money, which is great.
Right, that's the.
Which is great.
So is that through OnlyFans or Patreon? What platform were you doing this on? How did you find people to share?
Yeah, I started using OnlyFans and it didn't went well. I have some issues with the platform because of my passport and all these things. So I decided to change and create a profile on Patreon, and I felt safer because Patreon doesn't have this stigma, you know? When you talk about OnlyFans, people tend to think just about this kind of stuff. I don't find that a bad thing, but it's not something that I'm doing. So I moved to Patreon and I felt better. I feel safer. It was like I was chilling out, and also the percentage. OnlyFans gets the 20% of everything that you make, even your tips. But Patreon only 8%. So you don't lose a lot of money as an only. But OnlyFans is more famous, more known. So when you tell people that they have to subscribe to Patreon to get your content, they're like, I don't know that platform, blah, blah, blah. But whatever, it's have been a great journey.
So, what are the economics? What's like a typical day of making money? Like, what's an average day? Like, you get up at what time? You do whatever.
Last year was a great and awesome year for me. I was making like almost $2,000 per month. Yeah, I was like, hey, I'm not an actress. I'm not a singer, a famous person. So for me to make that kind of money just in the page and the platform, it was okay, but I'm also selling my content outside of the platform because listen to this, there's a lot of people that feel more shy and they don't want to subscribe to something like that. So they prefer to buy the content like directly without subscribing to any platform.
Where are you living right now? Are you still in Chile?
Yeah, I'm still in Chile, but I no longer live in the south. I moved to Santiago. So now I'm living in the capital.
So if you're making 2,000 a month in Chile, that would put you in like the top 1% of income earners in the country, wouldn't it? Isn't like the average wages under 1,000 a month?
No, they earn, let me think, like 400, 400,000 pesos, chilenos. That would be like $500, maybe something like that.
Right, and you're making something like that, and you're making two
Four
two
times.
thousand.
Yeah, but
So that's four. So that's 4x.
yeah, from the platform and the photo because I also teach. I'm a language teacher, so I teach. I also do some handcrafts, some decor for houses and stuff because I love money. And also, I love to make money by doing things that I love. I'm a really creative person, so it's really hard for me to follow orders or to have a schedule. I don't feel good by following orders or being someone's employee. I want to make my own money in my own time. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I mean, it's not like I'm getting rich, but it's a nice amount of money. But I want to make more, so I'm thinking how to do that. Going back to the topic about photos, sexy photos and stuff, there's a lot of girls that have come to me like with this doubt, like if I start to make these photos, am I gonna earn a lot of money? And it's like it's not that easy, you know? Have an amount of followers that are willing to see more from you and willing to pay for it. And it's not like just showing your body. You have to give something else because there's a lot of competition going on and there's a lot of cheap content, you know? There are subscriptions that are worth like $5, $3, $4 per month. And I think that's for me, I mean this is what I think. For me that's insane. It's like giving away your work for free. Something like that. Because for me the shooting process begins before the shooting, you know? You have to think about an idea. You have to think about what you're going to wear. You have to think about what you want to transmit. Are you going to be dominant? Are you going to be submissive? Are you going to be in the nature? Are you going to be in a studio? What do you want to express? What do you want to explore? So it's like a creative process that for me takes a lot of time. And then to find the photographer and to create the thing to materialize my idea is a long process. So people tend to think that this is an easy path, like, oh, you're just showing your boobs and that's an easy way to make money. And it's not. You have to build a community that are willing to pay to see more from you. And my subscription is around $30. So there's a lot of people that think that's expensive, but that's their problem, you know what I mean? So yeah, there's a lot of misconception about the whole thing or whatever. It's not easy. You have to be like constant in the thing of creating content. It's not like you're going to create content in 2 months and you're going to start earning $2,000 or something like that. I have 3 years doing this. I'm still not rich, but I have some fidelity for some people that are month per month paying to see my content.
Where are most of your paying customers located? Are they in Chile or is they just all over the world?
Chile, Brazil, Argentina, and Peru. Yes.
You don't have anyone from the United States?
Not
Well,
yet.
so if you're paying $30 a month, if you're in Chile or Brazil, it'd be quite a bit of money then. I mean, if you're making 500 a month, if you're making 500 a month and someone's paying you 30, that's a pretty big chunk of their money, right?
The great thing is that I sell my content out of the platform in a more expensive price, which is crazy.
Oh.
And they pay for it. It's crazy. But I don't have people from USA because I haven't like I haven't built a community around those other countries, you know? I probably should have I should do that. There's a lot of money. I have to do it.
Right.
Help me with that.
So you said that you've been doing it for 3 years and it took a while. How many months or years did it take to make your first $1,000 month?
Like a couple of months, maybe.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, maybe like 7 months, perhaps. Yeah, because of my travels, and because of the pictures of the places that I have been, and the tips that I give to people to travel like with less money, I have built a community that have been supporting everything that I have done, my handcraft, my paintings, whatever. So when I said that I was going to create this type of content, they were like, you go, you do it, and they support this. So I had a community built already. I had like 5 or 6,000 people following me only on Instagram. On Facebook, I have like the same amount of people. So yeah.
And then how many hours would you say you put in a week doing this? I mean, it seems like it's a lot of work if you're having to set up your shoots. And then do you also take requests? I mean, do people are like, hey, I'd love to see, you and X, whatever scene or whatever shot that they want.
Yeah, underwear. So when people want something special, something really specific, I charge I charge more money.
Right.
I feel comfortable, if the idea is good, if I like it, I say yes. You have obviously that person have to pay more money, but I can do it. And I have done that. I mean, people have paid me only to talk to me by phone. But I mean, not like in a sexual way, but only to tell me how their day went, how they feel, the issues with their families. And it's like, I think there's a lot of people feeling lonely. It's an interesting topic. They are feeling lonely and like they need this connection with someone and they are willing to pay for it. So there was a guy who paid me like an interesting amount of money just to see me by camera. Not naked, not doing something wild, just to talk to me and to see me through the camera. That was it. We did it like a couple of times, and what I feel is that they really need that interaction, that connection with somebody else. So yeah, about requests,
What do you,
do it only if I feel comfortable.
so what do you think this says about society at a larger level? Like, you think people are lonely? You can connect with anyone. Like, OnlyFans or Patreon wouldn't exist without the internet, but then at the same time, the internet kind of isolates people and makes people feel lonely. So it creates the problem and then it kind of solves the problem at the same time. But it doesn't seem like a lot of this internet for people is really healthy.
It's like a cycle.
At least in terms,
Yeah, it's a
yeah, it's a cycle, right?
Yeah, I think the way I approach people through my social media, they think or they have this feeling that I'm relatable, open minded, and guys, especially guys, they feel comfortable telling me things because they know they are open about the topic sex, about the topic, these taboo topics, there's not common, they're still not common here in South America. It's like really hard for people talking about sex, about fantasies, about this kind of things. So I do it, and that's why they have this interest in knowing me more and having this connection with me because they feel secure talking about the things that they want to do. This guy, for example, the one that paid for talking to me on the phone, he was like, it's so hard for me to talk about sex with my wife. I love my wife, but I want to do new things with her in bed. Tell me how I can achieve that. How can I do that? How can I get her to that point? It's not just feeling lonely, like you're surrounded by people and you feel lonely or that you don't have other people to talk with. Is that they don't have someone to talk about the things that they really want to talk. These taboo topics is like really hard. Nowadays, it's crazy, it's so crazy. Is talking about masturbation, masturbating, talking about, I don't know, swingers, talking about threesomes, talking about all these things is such a scandal. Even if you are married and you try to talk this with your spouse, they are like in shock. And for me, it's something super natural, super normal. We all have fantasies. We all have these desires. I think that they try to connect with me and they are willing to pay because they know they are not going to be judged. I'm not going to judge them because of the things that they desire, because they know that I understand that we are humans and we have these kinds of needs. But I think that I'm doing something good. I I sincerely think that I can get to educate people. I mean, not educate, like to share this perspective of this view that I have about life. That you don't have to like follow all these invisible rules that are dictated by society, which is crazy when you say, no, society is so wrong, society does this, society. But who is society? I mean, who is it? We are part of society. So if I change my way of thinking, does society change too? It's like, and I sincerely think that being connected with your sexuality gives you a kind of power and that allows you to get things, like to, I don't know how to explain this, but if you're connected with your sexuality, you have this impressive power that gives you confidence, and by being confident you can achieve a lot of things. Yeah, something like that. So there's this thinking, because I have talked with a lot of women that want to do some erotic content, but they think that they are too fat, too skinny, too short, to this, to that. And it's like for every type of content, there's a public willing to pay for it. It doesn't matter how you look, it's how you sell yourself. Have you seen the news about the EAs creating content for this type of platform? It's crazy. You can see nudes, you can see erotic content created by a female, which doesn't exist. It's just an image created by the IA.
So you're saying artificial intelligence is basically making photos of women. And so you can't even tell the difference if you're looking at a real woman or if you're looking at artificially created women through machine learning.
Yes, they are going to be able to do that, and they are doing it. I don't know if you can see the difference. I think that you can see the difference, but it's like really hard. You have to like to see in detail, but they are doing that. So now people are thinking, I mean, what if I pay for something that is not real? So that gets me thinking what the EA is going to be able to do in some years is exciting, but I also feel a little bit of fear. But I mean, it's going to be like internet a couple of years ago. It's going to be like, I don't know, another technological revolution that is going to change how the world interacts, behave, works. For me, it's exciting, but there's a little bit of fear too.
Do you foresee like yourself getting replaced by artificial intelligence?
No, I'm not afraid of it because of my personality. I think it's not about your body, your tits, your butt, your, I don't know, your waist, your arms. It's about how you behave. It's about how you are able to connect with other human beings and the way you think, the way you act. So I'm not replaceable, you know. That's confident right there.
That's kind of right. You just got married recently, right? You got married a few months ago. Like, what is your husband? What is your husband? Yeah, and congratulations, by the way. I saw the pictures. You look pretty spectacular. But I mean, what does your husband think of?
I mean, people have curiosity about what he thinks, and he does not like this. He has been open about it, and he has said, I don't like you to take this kind of pictures and that everybody can see you, but I support you. If this is what you want to do, I'm going to stand by your side, and that's it. So it's like a really mature opinion and a way of seeing this, because he knows this is important for me not only to make money, but because I'm a creative person and because I love photography and because I want to be in touch with my sexuality and sensuality. And this is my process. And I have explained this to him. And even though he's not super happy about it, he's been really supportive. Yeah, he has been great. Yeah, that's why I married him. He gets me.
Yeah, he gets
Finally.
you.
Yeah, he knows that I have this inside need to do, to create, to be like over the top, to like break rules, to speak loud, to laugh loud. And he's a really quiet and a really simple and a really working person. So we are like totally different, but at the same time, it's like a nice balance. Yeah.
Who makes more money between the two of you?
Him. Yeah.
Oh, he does. Oh, okay. Well, what does he do?
His son, how you say this in English? An engineer. I mean,
Oh, an engineer, right?
yeah, but it's like it's related to build
Like a civil
houses.
engineer?
Yes, yes. So
Civil
he
engineer,
built
okay.
blah 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 and da 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 da. Yeah.
You said you wanted to talk about travel. What do you want to talk about when it comes related to travel?
Traveling for me was the biggest and the best university that I could attend to. I mean, I graduated from the university and I'm a teacher, but I think that I have learned more by traveling than studying at my university. And I was born in a really nice family, so we weren't rich, but my dad made a lot of money, so it was a comfortable life. And I have this view of the world. So I don't know. It was a fantasy view of the world. I thought that everything was that easy. I was that everybody had the opportunity to live the way I lived. But I always had the curiosity to know people, to know other places, to collect experiences. So I started to travel like a backpacker without no money because I wanted to challenge myself. And I was like saying to my family, I don't want you to pay anything for me. I want to make my own money. I want to to be the owner of this process, of this path that I'm choosing. So I graduated from the university. I told my mom that I was going to travel. And then I started in Brazil, and I really soon realized that the world was more complex than I thought. And there's a lot of mean people, there's a lot of dangerous people. Um, and yeah, I think by traveling as a backpacker, I became a woman. I became stronger and wiser. That's why it's so important for me, that part of my life. I let go a lot of prejudice. ¿Cómo dices prejuicios?
Prejudices? You,
Yes, a lot of them.
yeah.
I had the opportunity to connect, to strongly connect with prostitutes, with drug addicts, with people living in the streets. And I get to realize that not because they were in those situations, they were not worthy of respect. Because I met a lot of humans in these situations, and they were humble, they were kind, they were giving, they were nice, they were willing to help everybody. So that was shocking for me because I had this thought in which I was like, I don't know, if that person lives in the street, is because is a bad person, is a drug addict, is someone that doesn't have anything good in their heads. They get what they deserve, you know? That way of thinking was so wrong. That's why I love traveling as a backpacker. You have this sense of reality that money cannot buy. I mean, you can travel with money. That's easy. You can pay for your hotel, you can pay for a tour, you can pay for food, you can pay for these things that make you feel comfortable and blah, blah, blah. But when you try to travel without money, without any of that, you get in touch with another reality and you can learn a lot from it. I mean, I did. So that's why I love to talk about it.
You used to be a street performer to basically fund your travels before you were doing the OnlyFans type stuff, right?
Yes. I started by selling handcrafts in the streets outside of the malls. I just talk to people. I'm like a warm person, so I love to talk to people. So I told my story, you know. I was like, I'm a traveler, I'm a backpacker, I want to know the world. This is my way of doing that. And people bought me a lot of things just because of my speech. Just for talking about my dream. So they connect with me through my speech, and they bought me handcraft. So I started doing that because I love doing handcraft, sewing. So I met a lot of people. Um, people sympathize a lot with me. So in some cases, they told me to stay in their houses. In some cases, they told me that they were willing to pay for my trips. That I mean, it was magical because when you do what you love and you are so passionate about it, because I'm really passionate about the things that I want to do with the things that I do, people connect with you. They see that you want to do something so badly and they want to be part of that by helping you getting to that point, to being close to your dream. So I received a lot of help from strangers. I mean, people that didn't know me, people that just speak or spoke with me just one time. And for me, that was magical. Even though my trips were hard sometimes, I still believe there are more good human beings than bad people, you know? And
How do you
after
think?
that, I went to a place in which my macrame, my handcraft, was not doing so well. I was not selling anything and I was starving. I was like, damn, I have to pay for food. I have to pay for a place to stay, blah, blah, blah. And I met a girl, a Brazilian girl, God bless her. She taught me how to juggle. So I started to juggle, to do some juggling in the on the streets, and step by step, I was doing it better. So I started to do juggling with fire and stuff like that. And it was so much fun. It was fun. I mean, I got tired and stuff, but it was so much fun. And I was making the same amount of money that a regular person was making in a whole day of working. And I did that only in 3 or 4 hours of juggling on the street. Yes, so I did that too.
How do you think your experience would differ if you were a guy? I've traveled, extensively, and I've, hitchhiked, and I mean, I've traveled with money and I've traveled without money, so I kind of have both experiences. And I could remember waiting 8 hours certain days to catch a ride hitchhiking, and then I was talking to my girlfriend at the time, and she's a cute French Canadian. She'd be like, "Yeah," she's like, "the longest hitchhike I've had my entire life was like 12 minutes." And I'm like,
Yeah,
12 minutes? I'm like, I have days I'll go. I actually had days I didn't get a hitch at all. After 8 hours, I just like, okay, I guess I'll just try again tomorrow. And she's
I'm
like,
so sorry, Josie, that you have to go through that. I'm so sorry. I mean, I think that when you're doing hitchhiking, drivers see less dangerous to pick up a girl because picking up a guy is like you have this sense of maybe he's able to do something to me.
it's funny you say that because most of the people that would pick me up were actually women. I remember I would hitchhike sometimes with this girl in particular I'm talking about, and you'd have like three cars to try to stop at one time, like trying to fight over picking her up. I'm like, I have no one fighting over me trying to pick me up.
First of all, you are a really good looking guy. That helps. That helps a lot. But I think that there's a lot of aspects that you have to take into account. It depends on the culture, it depends on the country, it depends on a lot of things. For example, I felt more secure doing hitchhiking in Brazil and in Chile than in Peru or Guyana, you know, because people were used to hitchhikers. They were like, oh, there's another person that is traveling, another backpacker that wants to go to point A to point B, you know, I can help that person. But in Peru, it's not that common. And I felt really insecure. Actually, in Peru, I started to pay for transport because the insecurity that I felt because I was a woman, young, traveling alone. So I felt like how you call lo como un blanco? Blancos, like a target, an easy target. That only happened in Peru and in Guyana. And
Or
Brazil is known to be one of the most dangerous countries in the entire world. But I felt really secure doing hitchhiking there. Really, really safe. Yes, people are so nice, so warm, so welcoming. Um, so that's why I said, I don't know, that depends on the culture, the place, the country. That depends of if you are a guy, if you are a woman. That depends of the driver. It's like a really subjective
yeah, it's
thing.
really in terms of hitchhiking, I felt the easiest place I've ever hitchhiked was Hawaii, just because there's so much of it. It's so socially acceptable. Alaska, everyone was like, "Oh, Alaska's
Have to be so happy they live close to the beach. I mean,
yeah,
I
yeah,
would.
yeah." Hawaii was like, if you wait more than 15, 20 minutes, it's like a bad day. But Alaska, I did a season there, working in Denali National Park, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, Alaska's so easy to hitchhike," and Alaska was actually really hard. I was hitchhiking around with two girls, two young 18-year-old blonde girls, and we had days we would wait upwards of 10 hours. And
This
people
one,
are like, "Well, you should just,
no.
yeah, you just don't know." And people are like, "Well, that's because you were there." And I was like, "No, I would just stand off to the side. It'd just be like two blonde girls on the side of the road." And it was hard. You just don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think about Americans when you meet Americans traveling? I feel like there's always kind of like this as a person from the United States of America.
When you say Americans, you're talking about whom?
We've had this conversation when I was hanging out with you in Chile, but it's the United States of America. So the abbreviation is just American. It's the United States of America. It is not Chile. It is the Republic of Chile. So should I call you Republican of Chilean or should I call you a Chilean?
You can get confused. It's a confusing expression, a confusing question. So
Well,
you can
the only people that are confused are people from South America that make it confusing. I mean, if you're from Venezuela, what's the full name of Venezuela? What's the name of your
if
country?
I am an American too. If I'm from Chile, I'm American too.
Yeah, it's not a reference to the continent, it's a reference to the United States of America. Like everyone knows this. It's just like a way to get offended to get offended. What's the full name of Venezuela?
República Bolivariana de Venezuela.
Right.
It's
So,
like,
well, how would you like me to how would you like to abbreviate that? It's kind of a long.
it's a lot, yeah.
Yeah, it's a
I
long.
mean,
Yeah,
just
so it just gets
okay. So back to the question. You were asking about my thoughts about what?
how about people from the United States of America, aka Americans, when they travel? It seems like there's a lot of stigmas around that. It's a completely different experience if I travel than when you're traveling.
What kind of a stigma?
When you're from the United States, they just assume you have money or they don't like you because you're from the United States. There's just certain prejudices that people have or stereotypes, biases, whatever word that you would want to use. You're from Venezuela. We've talked about this. You had some pretty strong opinions. You said you disliked people from the United States before, so I just yeah, you
I
said
don't
yeah.
know. So listen.
Okay.
Right there. I didn't say that.
Okay.
And if I did, I regret it. My mom, she has this big resentment against people from USA because of the government, because of the speech and the TV and blah blah blah. So I grew up with that strong opinion by my side. But as I said before, when I started to travel, my mind opened and I drop a lot of crazy ideas. So nowadays, I think that doesn't matter where you come from, how you look like, but how you behave. So I cannot judge someone just because of the place they were born. So I don't have like a strong opinion about people from USA. I mean, I'm like open to know everybody, and if you're a piece of shit, I mean, I won't hang out with you, but me liking you doesn't need to be connected with the place you were born, but the way you behave. That's how I think now. And yeah, I have some friends from USA and appreciate them a lot. And yeah, they're really interesting.
When I first started traveling back, I don't know, 2 decades ago, I would hear that you can travel the world and live like a king, or a queen on $1,000 a month. People would always talk about Thailand or Bali, and then as soon as I got there, it's like $1,000 a month is nothing. Someone that's from, like, say, Venezuela, when you're traveling South America, what amount of money do you feel like you need to travel, living like a king or a queen, like the queen that you are? To me, that means like you're not worrying really about money. Like, would a queen have to have a budget? Like, oh, I'm a queen, I'm Queen Lou, I have a budget. To me, it seems like you can just kind of do what you want. If you want to do a tour, like if you're in Mexico, you want to go to the pyramids, or you want to eat some exotic food. When you were in Cusco in Peru, like Machu Picchu cost me over $500, and that was like a
Yeah,
few days.
that's a lot of money. When I went to Machu Picchu, I spent nothing. Just the entrance to the place. Nothing else.
Well, that same with
Listen, I slept
right.
I slept in a camping tent and I ate food from restaurants that that when you in restaurants when they are about to close, they throw a lot of food, right? A good nice food. I went there and I talked to people in the restaurant and I told them my situation and they gave me food during 2 days.
Right, but I spent $0 in Machu Picchu outside of the ticket. I didn't eat, but my $500 is getting to Machu Picchu, taking the train ride there, getting back. I had to get from Lima to Cusco. Like, I'm not even this is what I'm factoring in. I'm not factoring in, like, I didn't eat anything that day. It was the bus ticket
Okay.
from the town to get to Machu Picchu, which I think the bus ride was $20 round trip, something like that, and the entrance fee was $50. That was $70. Like, but then the train ride. So how did you get to? Was it Aguadilla? Is that what's the name of the town? It's like no.
Caliente.
Is yeah, that's what it's called. Yeah, how did you get there?
Hot water.
Yeah, hot water. Yeah, it's hot water because the hot springs, right?
Food by food. I did some trekking. Yes, that was like 3 hours walking. Rails. I was walking next to the train rails. So you, people with money, in that moment, you were in your trains, super comfy, drinking your tea or your beer, watching the landscape. I was walking like a donkey. Yeah, I was.
So, so do you consider that traveling like a queen, or you think that's like just backpacking traveling? Like, would you define that as a queen?
It was a backpacking travel.
Right. So how would you?
For sure.
So how much money would you say you would need to travel like a queen?
That depends on a lot of things, but I don't know. If I go, we went on a road trip last year and we were visiting the south. I don't know if you have heard about those places, Cochamó, Pueblo. Okay, a really nice spot in the Carretera Austral, right? And we spent in like 5 or 6 days, like 4,000 or 5,000 pesos. Pesos chilenos? No. ¿Cómo se dice? No. Dollars. Like $5,000 in that trip.
5,000 US dollars in 5 days.
Yeah. But we were in our car because it was a road trip. So I don't think that we were traveling like a queen and a king because a road trip is not as comfortable as taking a plane, traveling by plane, arriving to the place, and blah, blah, blah. But we stayed in a lot of nice places and we paid for nice tours and things. But for me, I mean, I don't care about the budget, about how much money are we able to spend. I think that for me, the most important thing is to travel per se, you know? The experience
Yeah.
of going to another place. For me, the experience of knowing a new place is a queen experience. Yes. Yes.
Right. It's like
I was so brilliant and humble.
right. Right. You're a big fan of the band Lonely Island with Mariah Carey singing the "I'm So Humble" song.
It sounds like with a lot of wisdom in it.
One of the things that I always noticed when I was traveling around is that I always felt that like the backpacking crowd were kind of arrogant, where they kind of like look down. They don't consider themselves tourists, and especially if you're from the Europeans or the people from the U.S. or Canada, where you're Venezuelan, so you speak Spanish and you also speak Portuguese. Is that correct? Like right. So like when you,
Não fala português. Você fala português? Você quer falar português agora? Posso. Você pode?
right, but like so, like when you're traveling, you at least speak the language, especially in South America where it's mostly Spanish. I think obviously Portuguese in Brazil. What is it they speak in French Guyana? They speak French, right?
In French Guiana, they speak French.
They
In
speak right.
Guyana, in Guyana, they,
It's Spanish.
no, no, you
No, it's not. Oh,
wrong. They
oh, right.
country next to Venezuela, which is Guyana. You have Guyana, you have Suriname, and you have French Guyana. In French Guyana, I think they speak French. In Guyana, they speak English.
Oh, right. They speak English.
Yes.
Right.
Actually, my mom and my grandmother, they were from Guyana, and my grandfather, he was from the island Barbados.
Oh, Barbados. Yeah, yeah. Okay, they speak English there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but basically, let me get back. Let me reframe this because I'm losing.
Of backpackers. Why is
Right,
that?
but I feel like a lot of backpackers are kind of arrogant. They feel like they're like saving the world because they're like traveling, even though they're like hitchhiking around, not really contributing anything to society, whatever. And then they look down on the people that are tourists on a cruise ship or something. They're like, oh, those people, they don't know how to travel. They don't consider themselves tourists. They're like, we just do local stuff. All their friends are people that live in a hostel that know nothing about the country, but they think they're like better than the tourist, yet they somehow think they're benefiting humanity by backpacking around and being cheap, like not tipping people because they want to save money, and they think they're like, I don't know. I just like, to me, like I when I was younger, I was probably the same way, but like the last time I was traveling, I was staying in hostels, and I noticed it, and I was like, man, these people are D-bags. I was like, these people act like they're saving the fucking world, and a lot of them don't even leave the hostel. They just like, they go out, get hammered at night, bang some random person in a they get drunk, bang some random they get high, they get drunk, and they're just doing like, if they did the exact same thing at home in their mom's basement, they would be considered a loser. But they do the exact same thing in a foreign country, and then they're worldly, like, oh, look at this person, they're so cultured. They were in Chile for 6 months, or it's like backpacking Europe, right? Like, why do people backpack Europe? Because it's easy. So like, yeah, I backpack Europe. And like, oh, what's your favorite country? Well, I was so fucked up, I don't really have one. But that's pretty much the answer. They don't say it's in that terminology. I was in Australia. I was in Cairns, which is where the Great Barrier Reef is. It's like the entry point. And I was at this hostel, and I was in the Gold Coast. I was flying out to New Zealand. And I asked this guy, he was in Australia for 2 years. And I was like, what's your favorite place? And he's like, Cairns. And I was like, where's Cairns? And he's like, yeah, where the Great Barrier Reef is. And I was like, oh, Cairns. He couldn't even pronounce the name of his town. And then I was like, oh, did you go to the Great Barrier Reef? He's like, oh, no. No, I partied. It's like a great party town. I'm like, oh, it's your favorite town in all of Australia. You can't even pronounce. You didn't even go to the Great Barrier Reef. I mean, do you feel like that's an accurate representation of a lot of backpackers, or do you think I'm over exaggerating that?
I think that they feel like their the traveling part is harder. It's like more real, is closer to the people, whatever, to the classrooms. I don't know. But there's a lot of algorithms in the traveling world, especially with the backpackers. And I don't know why. Maybe because they think that they choose a harder path than the people that have money to pay for a cruiser, for a tour, for I don't know, for a nice hotel. So they think that by sacrificing their comfort, they are more special, maybe because in some point of my traveling years, I felt that, I felt more special because my path was harder. And I thought in those days, well, I'm doing this, I'm working my ass off to pay for my food, to pay for my hostel, to pay for my whatever, and I'm knowing the people on the streets, I know the people that are in the hospitals. I'm getting in touch with the essence of the culture of the place. I'm there with that tourist that spent just 2 days in the country and that's it. I also felt special, but it's because of that, it's because you are sacrificing your comfort. But now that I think about it, it's stupid. I mean, it's really stupid. There are a lot of ways to travel, to get in contact with culture, to get in contact with people, and there's no need to sacrifice your comfort, you know, to connect. But I think that's the main thought of backpackers. They all think they are special, super extra special, and they are going to, I don't know, be part of a big revolution of knowledge and blah, blah, blah. But then you also get high a lot, they drink a lot. If you have been in a hostel, you know what the environment is. There's always like a sense of partying all the time. And I speak by my perspective, in every hostel that I stayed, no matter the country, there was like, yes, you know people, you create connections and blah, blah, blah. But at the end, they were almost everybody was drunk, almost everybody was high, almost everybody was. But I think it's something related to being young too. But algorithms, yeah, it's something normal. I think when you grew up and you realize that there's a lot of things going on in the world, maybe I was stupid by thinking that. But yeah, you are for sure right. There's a lot of arrogance in the backpacker world. A lot.
We met in Valdivia, Chile,
Yes.
and I was doing like some business stuff in Pucón,
Yes.
and it's fun, so I was kind of commuting back and forth between Valdivia and Pucón. And it's funny because when I'd be in Pucón, people are like, "Oh, cool, Jesse, I haven't seen you in a little bit. Where were you?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm in Valdivia," and no one wanted to go to Valdivia. They're like, "Why would you even waste your time in Valdivia? Like, there's nothing to do." And it's like, so you're in Pucón. Very few locals live there. It's all backpackers.
Yeah.
Valdivia actually is like a real city with real Chileans, and Valdivia, in my opinion, is actually prettier. I mean, like it's like this, it's way prettier.
Way prettier. Yeah.
It's it's prettier. Like it's cheaper. The people are nicer. You're actually hanging out with real locals. We would always do stuff with Chileans. In Pucón, I didn't know any Chileans. Even like the people at the hostel were all Europeans that were doing like a work stay, basically. Like I said, the last hostel experience, I was kind of like over it. I was like, man, I just can't stay in hostels anymore. These people are just such arrogant d-bags. Like,
also this sense of competition. And in which country have you been? How many countries have you visited? And how many wonders have you known? Blah blah blah. And la la la.
yeah,
And it started to be not like sharing experiences, but like competing. So to know who has been the best traveler, the more
yeah.
traveler, and I don't like that, Bob.
No,
It's not cool. It's not cool. No.
No, you're right. It's like, now it's kind of funny because I was living in Puerto Rico, which is like, or I live in Puerto Rico, kind of moving back to the mainland, but Puerto Rico is like one of the richest parts of the United States of America, even though it's a territory, because it's essentially a tax haven. And so there's a lot of money there. There, it's like your value is based on how much money you have, what your net worth is. When you're backpacking, your value is based on how many countries you've been to. But I mean, it's just,
Yes.
but they'll rip on the man, the capitalist, even though they're like spending all this money traveling, contributing nothing to society. And then but then except with the rich people, it's like you're an idiot unless you're rich. Like so like it's the same thing, but it's a different metric. The metric with backpacking, how many countries have you been to? The metric in Puerto Rico is how much money you have. But then it's to me, it's like no one ever factors in the quality. Like, hey, how many countries have you been to? Well, what did you do in that country? Like, I was having I think I told you this story before. One of my best friends has this huge map on his wall, and it's a scratch off map. So every time he goes to a country, he scratches out the country. So I'm at his house in Luxembourg when I'm visiting him, and I see that the entire country of Canada is scratched off. Canada is the second largest country in the world behind Russia. I was like, oh, cool. What did you do in Canada? And he's like, I had a work conference in Toronto for a few days. I was like, oh, okay. So did you do anything? Did you leave Toronto? Oh, no. No, of course not. Then he Right, and then he had like the Maldives or something like that, and I was like, "Oh, what did you do in the Maldives?" He's like, "Oh, I had a layover there." I was like, "You literally you scratched out an entire country, and then you like,
and you did and no nothing.
and you did nothing." I'm like, "Well, did you leave the airport?" He's like, "Well, yeah." He's like, I had like a 4 hour layover. I left the airport for like an hour." I'm like, "Oh." I'm like, so what? Did you go to like McDonald's, go to Starbucks in the Maldives or something, cross the street? I'm like, yeah, crushed it. Where's my scratch off? Where's my quarter? I'm gonna scratch off this entire country. I'm like, how? Like, it's not the. But then these are the.
Makes sense, buddy. No.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah. But then the fact is to even have the map, right? The fact is that there's even a demand for the map in itself shows you that it's really just about the number.
Yes.
And I, when I was
number, not experience.
yeah,
I have
yeah.
a lot because I only have visited like 5 countries, and I spent like a year and a half in Brazil, for example. I spent a lot of time in Brazil, so I visited a lot of places, a lot of little towns, a lot of beaches, a lot of cities, a lot of places, from the north to the south. So when I was talking about my experience to other travelers, they were like, "Oh, but you have been only in 5 countries. I have been in, I don't know, 20 countries, 32 countries," and it's like, I'm not looking for a number. I'm looking for an experience. I'm searching for knowledge. I'm searching for doing new things, and even in just one country, you can find a lot of different cultures, a lot of different ways to speak the same language. I mean, it's not the same Portuguese in the north of Brazil that the northwest or the south. They have a different way of speaking, a different way of eating, a different way of behaving. They even look physically different. So when I started to realize that there was a lot of competition and absurd competition, I was like so disappointed because, well, I'm looking for a life experience, not collecting numbers. But at the end of the day, you know what? It's like everybody has their own way to see the world. They have their own way to behave and whatever. It's like we cannot stop arrogant people from being arrogant. And it could be money, it could be travels, it could be relationships, but we are going to be like that. So I'm like, it's not personal, it's not against you, it's a way of living their life. So I don't care. When they start to competing, it's like, I'm out. That's like that's not my vibe. I'm not vibing with you, so whatever, you know. But
Yeah.
but yeah, yeah. There's a lot of arrogance there. A lot of.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it seems like one of the biggest things I've noticed about traveling is that pretty much everyone is the same everywhere. I mean, like people are the same. Like you have I mean, like I said, you have the people that are cool, you have the people that are d-bags. Every culture is basically this. It's just so homogenized, and especially nowadays, you go travel the world, like in Bali. You're driving the main strip in Bali, and it's like a KFC and McDonald's. You would have no idea if you're in Bali, if you're in Hawaii, or if you're in
Yeah.
Puerto Rico, where we live now. But it's not that different. I would have loved to have traveled, say in the 1960s or the 1970s, but now like a lot of it is it's so
Commercial.
it's it's so commercialized.
Really superficial. I mean, people are traveling a lot of them. Not everybody, because it's not like nice to have it outside, you know? But a lot of people are traveling just to take a nice picture, to have followers, to have likes, and that's sad. I mean, I love to take pictures because those are memories, you know? But I'm not going to travel just to hit a spot and take a picture in a famous place and that's it. That's superficial, but you were saying before, I mean, you can go to China and you're going to find assholes there, you're going to find nice people there, no matter the country. It's like the same everywhere. I mean, I don't know. You know,
What would you say is your most magical moment traveling? Like what was
most magical moment traveling, that's so hard, but I have the answer. I was in Venezuela working as a tour guide in Angel Falls. You know, the most
the tallest waterfall in the world?
tour in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was working there. I was getting paid to speak with people, to get those people to nice places, and that's it. I mean, a dream job. And I was like, okay, the first time that I went to Angels Falls, I was mesmerized, I was hypnotized, I was shocked because I have never seen something so incredible and beautiful ever. You know, it's like so. How do you say imponente?
And
Magnificent. In that one trip, I was with a group of Japanese people. Yeah, whatever. So it was getting dark, and they have dinner. Blah blah blah. They went to sleep. So I have a moment for myself. It was late, and I decided to take a walk, and we were sleeping in front of the falls. So I decided to take a walk and to be by myself because I love doing that. And I sat like in a border of a bridge, something like that. And I sat down, and there was a full moon illuminating the falls, and the sun was so bright, and the silence, it was full of animal noises, and the water falling from the falls, you know, that sound of water running, and the animals, the crickets, whatever, and a magical silence and a magical scene. That was the most incredible and magical moment ever. To see something so magnificent and illuminated by the full moon, I got the sense of being surrounded by so many beings. I was not seeing those beings, but I felt them, and it was so powerful. And I started to cry. I was like, this is so and I was by myself. It's one of the most magical moments in my life, and I was by myself, alone, in the middle of the forest, just watching a waterfall. It was stunning. It was, I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting because you're Venezuelan, so it's an experience that was actually at home. And I feel like some of my favorite travel experiences are actually domestic as well. Like I had a lot of cool experiences in Hawaii and in Colorado.
So
It's
what
amazing. Like
your most magical moment traveling? It was in Hawaii?
everything's new. So when you first start traveling, so the first real travel experience was in Hawaii. And I got a one-way ticket to the island of Kauai, and it's in the Pali Coast. It's like one of the prettiest coasts in the world. It's like these jagged peaks right on the ocean, and it's an 11-mile trail. It's a goat trail. You cross like 6 rivers. There's waterfalls. It's a remote beach. I hiked this 11-mile trail in February, so there's crossing rivers. You got to have ropes and everything because the rivers are raging. There's very few people. I get to the end and I'm tired, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna jump in the ocean. So I jump into the water, and then there's this super attractive blonde girl just skinny dipping, and so I'm like, oh, whatever. She's skinny dipping, why not? So I skinny dip with her, and she's like, oh, hey, my name's Sandra. Like, you want to hang out? And I'm like, absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
That, that was like my first travel experience, and then I loved working at ski resorts, just going out snowboarding every day, getting the free ski pass. That was really cool. You can travel around the world, but the further away you get, and when you don't speak the language, that creates a lot of barriers and it creates a lot more stress, I would say. Like, I think traveling is when you get really far away, you have no friends, you have no idea what the currency is, you have no idea what the prices are. People are taking yeah, it's more like survival. Yeah, I call it just survival traveling.
Yeah.
You have no idea what's going on. I mean, I was in Vietnam getting locked in taxi cabs, like people trying to take you and extort money out of you. And people always talk about the really good experiences they have, but I feel like a lot of people don't. And I've said this before. Like I worked on a cruise ship, right? I worked on a cruise ship. I did a 6-month contract, and it was an awful experience because all you do is work, right? It was 180 days, work 180 days at 6 o'clock in the morning, might work 18-hour days. At typical days, probably 10 to 16 hours. 8 hours is like a joke. Yeah, yeah, and you're never getting off the ship, so it's not really even traveling. But people are always like, oh, they're like, you're just not a fun person. If I was on the cruise ship, I would have made it fun. I'm like, you have no idea. It's easy to sit back and play Monday morning quarterback. You have no idea what it's like. And so I just stopped telling people even about that experience.
Definitely. I love being a positive person, but in general, my travel experiences have been great, But I have lived some ugly things and situations that make me grow, make me acquire another abilities, because if I didn't, I was starved. I have lived a lot of dangerous situations, but even though I think being alive is about that, you're going to live great things, you're going to live sad things, you're going to live dangerous things. It's like a roller coaster. But even those things that you don't like that you have lived, they taught you how to survive or how to avoid that same kind of situation or people, or is a great moment or is a lesson.
When you were talking to start this podcast, you were talking about how basically traveling is more education than you would get in a university. And that I agree with. The highs in traveling are super high. Like you meet super cool people, you have these amazing experiences, but the lows are also insanely low. Like you're getting robbed, you're getting kidnapped, you're getting cheated. Like it's like the lows it's like this massive roller coaster ride. Like you go from euphoria, like I feel like there's no like just like, oh, I had an okay day. It's like euphoria or depression. Like you're basically like going, oh, best day ever, to like, okay, I just got locked into a taxi cab and people are trying to murder me. I guess the only even Steven days is when you're at the airport going from one country to another. It's like, oh, whatever. That's like the even Steven day.
I mean, that makes traveling interesting. When I was traveling, I was using this app called Couchsurfing, and it was insane because you are able to meet a lot of different people even with different social
Social economic status, or is that?
social economic status. So I stayed with humble people that it's obvious that they don't have a lot of income, but I also stayed with people that have, they have a lot of money. But it's like, I don't know, it's insane because you can meet people from everywhere, from different economic status, whatever. The thing that keep them in the same app is the same interest of traveling and meeting people that travels. So I had a lot of experience. I slept in um, station trains. I have slept on the beach. I don't know, in the forest. I have slept next to a train rail. And I have slept in really nice places, like really expensive condos and whatever. Um, the beautiful thing is the experience. Even if it's a bad experience, when I went to Machu Picchu, it rained the whole day. I had to left my camping tent behind because it was smashed, smashed by the rain. The rain was so hard that the sun didn't get through it. I slept wet. It was really uncomfortable. But I appreciate that experience because I was there. I got to know the place. I had that moment with me. And even it was not as luxury as many people may want to be, it was special. It made me stronger. When I left that place, I had to work harder. I have to buy another content. Yeah, whatever. Traveling is awesome. No matter how, no matter where, alone, with strangers, with people you know. Yeah, and with it.
There's a lot of people in the United States that kind of looked at Venezuela as a model, as improvement over the U.S. because of the socialism. I mean, as someone that's from Venezuela, yeah. Like, what would you say to a college student? Because there's a lot of college students that think Cuba or Venezuela is the model the rest of the world should follow. Like, people in Cuba and Venezuela are living the dream.
That is all an illusion. It's all a pretty speech, but in reality, it does not work as they said it does. And the biggest evidence of that is the huge exodus that the country has had in this couple of years. If the country was okay and everything worked perfectly, do you think that so many people will live and try to start a new life in another place? If you're being logical and you think about it, it doesn't make sense. If my country is okay, because if you talk with most of Venezuelans, you can realize that most of them have left the country because of the economic situation, and they don't have like the ways to, I don't know, to fulfill their needs in order to have a decent life. So I would say this an illusion. Is a beautiful truth, well prepared, but in reality, that does not work. How can you tell that? Well, facts. Check the facts, not the idea. The facts, what is happening.
It's easy to read something in a book, but when you're actually living there, you experience it firsthand. I mean, it's everything. A lot of things are good in theory, but the reality is something completely different.
So different, so wrong. Actually, when you link this topic with the traveling part, I can say that Venezuelan people don't have the culture of traveling, of going abroad, of knowing other countries. They're not like, for example, Argentinians. You can find Argentinas all over the world, or French people. They have the culture of traveling. Venezuelans, they didn't have that. So they are now spread in all these countries, not because they want to, but because they are forced to. you know? Yeah, if you talk with some of them, you will realize that if you give them the capacity to choose, they will for sure choose to be in their homes with their families and their country. Yes.
You ever see yourself moving back to Venezuela at some point in the future?
No. No. No.
My dear friends, that is it for this episode of El Podcast. Once again, if you're not yet subscribed, please subscribe on YouTube as well as Rumble. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts from. We thank you all from the bottom of our hearts for watching and listening, and we will see you on the next episode.